repairing LCDs.
Okay.
First, we're going to kind of just go look at the LCD a little bit and talk about the external just a bit. This is known as the button panel, right down there, going across the bottom, just where the power button is and the adjustments and so on are. Okay. One of the big part of an LCD is going to be the stand. This is a Dell monitor, so it has a Dell stand, and the stands are rated by what they can do. First you've got the swivel, okay. Then you've got the pivot. Okay. Then you've got the boom, which goes up and down. Okay. This one actually, if you go all the way to the bottom, there's a button in the back that you've got to press, and then it'll release it and it'll bring it back up. Okay. So that's the boom. And then the last one is going to be the rotate. Okay. So this one you can rotate and switch your monitor around, and you could put the start button going across the bottom. Then you hit start, and all the programs and everything would actually be sideways. Okay. Sometimes, like photographers, if they need to preview a photo, they'll just flip it sideways. That way, the photo's in full frame, or for whatever reasons. But there's the stand itself. This specific monitor has external USBs right there. Okay, these USBs are connected through the bottom of the computer. In the bottom, you will see that there's a USB connection right here. You connect that to the computer, and then you see there's more USB connections over here. Through these USB connections, you can connect your mouse and keyboard here, so you don't have to be digging in the bottom. So once you've got it connected, all and going, if you did have like a USB or something to plug in, you could just plug it in the side of the computer instead of having to reach to the bottom and plug it into the bottom. So it's like a little USB hub built right into the monitor. Okay. So this Dell stand, as you can see, there's no screws on it, right? Going across the back. There's just this little button right here, and I don't know if you can see it. Okay, that little button, you push that button, and it releases the monitor from the stand. Oh. So you don't push it, it's locked in. You push it, it releases it. Okay, and then there's hooks going across the top, and there it is right there. All right. So this right here is a 2009 WT. The W stands for wide monitor. You notice it does have 4 screws here, and that's in case you did have maybe a desk with an arm. These are pretty standard size screws so that it could screw right into that base in case you weren't going to use the base it came from. You can replace the base and use a different base. Just if it's a Dell base, it just hooks right on and that's it. Or you can just buy separate hangers for your wall or your desk or whatever. Okay. So we're going to start taking this apart. First we'll open it up, look at all the different parts, and then we'll talk about troubleshooting these. Okay. So first we're going to start taking off these 4 screws here. And these screws, they're not just screwed into plastic. Because they're holding the whole monitor up, they need to be to a metal base underneath. So a lot of times people think that you don't have to take these off, but you actually do because they're connected to the metal base underneath. All right, and if you're ever taking apart something for the first time, it's smart to just go ahead and remove all the screws because you don't know which ones you do need to remove and which ones you don't. Okay. So that's it for now as far as screws goes. One thing you will learn is that Dell loves plastic. I mean, they love plastic. Wow. So they love stuff to be plastic and snap and no screws and so on and so forth. All right, so we need to now start removing this. And the way you remove this is through the edge. All right, so I'm going to start at this bottom edge right here, right there. And then I'm going to stick the small screwdriver in here. And then I'm going to just start working that out. Okay, did you see that pop out? Yes. Okay, I'm just going to keep doing that. And once it pops out, I'm just going to slide it up and try to pop out the rest of these. Now, the smaller screwdriver, they even sell plastic ones. The smaller screwdrivers are the better ones. They do sell plastic ones so that you don't scratch up your base very much. Okay. And then there's an actual little tool that you use to remove this. All right, so I'm going to stick this down across the bottom here. See if I can. All right, so I've separated the plastic right here. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to put that screwdriver right in between of them and then slide it across, and you'll probably start hearing the clicks of when it's being removed or being separated from the bezel. All right, then I'm just going to use my hands to work out the rest of it. And And then the same thing going across the top here. And every monitor is going to be a little different. Just like I said, Dell loves plastic, so that's why this one's mainly plastic more than anything else. So I've removed this, and anytime you remove something for the first time, always remove it slowly. Don't just yank on it, because see, I would have ripped that connection right there to the button panel going across the front bezel. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip this over, okay, and then lay it down as gently as I can. And that removes the back plastic. Okay, so you notice this button right here was actually just a button for this guy right here. And then what it does, it just pushes this down like that, and it releases these hooks from the bezel itself. Okay. All right, so now we're going to keep digging a little deeper. You see that we see here the connections of the USBs connected to the little small wire right here. And I don't know if you can kind of turn around a little bit. You can see that it has a little clip on it right there. So if your fingers are small like mine, you could use your nail or your fingertip to kind of get in there and take that out. If not, you could use some really small needle nose pliers and push that to release the clip. Okay. So once you release that, I can just remove this one screw right here. Okay. And that takes that off. And then here is the circuit board. So if, for instance, the USBs on the side of your monitor went out, you can replace just this one part. The way I would look it up is, first of all, it'd be in eBay or Amazon. You can't call Dell and request just a piece. They'll ask you to send the whole monitor in, and then they'll tell you you have to buy a new one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they won't sell you just parts.
Oh.
Okay, so you have to look on Amazon or eBay or something like that to find parts. So the way I would find this is I would look up the model. This is a Dell 2009 WT USB panel, or USB side connection, or it'll be labeled a little different depending on who's selling it. Okay. There isn't part numbers or anything on this. Now, if this was an HP is notorious for putting part numbers on everything. This would even have its part number. That's how detailed they are.
Wow.
Okay. All right. So let's continue. We see that we have the little cable here going across over to the front of our button panel, which is the one that we saw earlier. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to start over here. I'm just start lifting it off. There's double-sided tape on it right there. That just kind of secures it in place. This has already been removed. And now we see this connection right here, okay? It's called the zero insertion force connection. It's very popular in laptops and some LCDs like this. The reason it's called zero insertion force is because it takes zero force to insert that connector. So you notice that there's this little brown connector. Can you see it? You can get closer this way. Might be easier. You see the little brown connector right there?
Yes.
I'm going to pull that out at both sides at the same time, like that.
Okay.
And that's it. It's released. So now it just takes zero force to take it out. And to put it in, it'd be the exact opposite. I would push that all the way in, and then push both connectors in at the same time, and it's connected. Okay. Now, the zero insertion force connections means that there's literally zero force on it. If you just pull on this, it will come out. Don't do it. Okay. Don't do that. That starts stripping the connection here, and then make this basically unusable after a while. Okay. So just go ahead and pull those tabs out slowly and gently, and to pull that full brown connector out all the way. That will release that correctly. Okay. So we lift that up all the way. So now that we've removed that, now we can just lift this up all the way. Okay. And then we should be able to lift this panel off away from the front bezel, like so. And here we've got the front bezel. All right. So if one of these buttons quit working just because it was either pressed too hard or whatever reason, you can replace just this small circuit board. Look it up the same way. Dell 2009 WT front panel bezel, or front panel buttons. Okay. And then you'll probably just get this. I'm not sure if this will come with it. It just depends on who's selling it. If not, just make sure you reuse the same cable. It just has 3 little screws, and that's it. Takes right off. All right. So that's the front bezel there, just the button panel. All right, so now moving along, we've got our screen here. In the back, we still got a little ways to go. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spin this around, and usually you'd want to have a mat underneath so you don't scrape the LCD up. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is you might see that there's a couple connectors here, okay? There's a pink one and a blue one there, and they're the exact same connector. So you might notice that I grabbed a Sharpie and I just drew on top of one of them.
Yes.
And then I drew right here just so that I can know that connection goes here. You don't want to get them inverted, connected in the wrong slot. Okay. I'm just going to use my thumb to take those out. And you see the exact same connector. They could technically fit in the opposite one, so that's why you wanted to label them to make sure you took them out accordingly and put them back accordingly when you finish. Okay, so there's two more right here. You're gonna unplug those right there. All right, now that those are unplugged, I'm gonna just grab my screwdriver and remove 1, 2, 3, 4 screws from here. All right, so here we go. Now you notice I'm using a magnetic screwdriver. According to the book, we do not use magnetic screwdrivers. In the real world, you'll be okay as long as you don't start scraping up against the circuit boards themselves. Okay? Another one of those, do as I say, not as I do. All right, so I removed all 4 screws. Now I'm just going to start lifting up gently, and you see that there's another connector right there, okay, hidden through the bottom of the board of the metal plate here. Now this connector, this connector has 2 little alligator clips, one on each side. All I'm going to do is I'm going to push them both and pull down towards me at the same time, and then that removes that connection. So I've removed that, and now I'm just going to lift that. And that releases the LCD from the circuit boards. Okay. All right. Now, LCDs in general are made up of 3 parts. Okay. 2 circuit boards. Certain models that have them combined to 1, but most of the time it's 2 circuit boards and a screen. Okay. So the screen is the first part. Okay. The screen will show you what's going on. It will show you the colors, the resolution, everything has to do with the screen. For instance, if you had an LCD or even a laptop and you wanted a better screen, for instance, you wanted a higher resolution, or you wanted from matte to gloss, or something like that, then you can just change the screen. You don't have to change the whole laptop. You don't have to change the whole LCD. I mean the whole LCD itself, just the screen itself. Oh. All right, so the screen itself is one part. Issues with screens will sometimes be like if you ever see like a line going across, or if you have like half the picture, like this is all white snow, and then you have the picture over here, then that's a problem with your screen. Okay. One of these, and we'll open up a screen here in a second, and something inside the screen has gone out. Okay. Now the screens have this little The screens have this little board attached to it. This is all one single piece right here. Okay, these are powers for the backlights, and like I said, we'll open one up in just a second, but this is just one single piece, okay, the screen. All right, so now we have 2 other boards, and we have 2 boards, and I will tell you their names and I'm gonna let you figure out which one's which. Okay. There's a power board and an inverter board, okay? Now, can you tell which is which?
This will be your power board, and this will be your inverter.
That's right. And the reason you know that this is the power board is because it has the power connection right on it, okay? And this is the inverter board because it has the video signals right on it, okay? All right, now, the way this works is that the power board is pretty obvious that just gives power to the LCD itself, okay? Issues with power boards would be very simply as not turning on. You push the power button and nothing happens. Or you might push the power button and the little light kind of maybe flickers on and off, the little light in front of the front of the screen, on the button panel, on the actual button itself, you hit the button, and then this little light right here maybe flickers on and off and turns off. That's pretty obvious that's a power issue. Or if the button itself, the little LED on the front of the button, maybe is like really dim, that would be a power issue as well. Okay. It's pretty obvious when it's a power issue because your power is not being regulated one way or the other. It's not getting full energy of somehow or some forth. Okay. So now remove those screws. There's 2 more right here, and actually there's 2 more over here. I'm going to take these 2 off first. All right, now the other side. You heard it drop?
Yes.
Okay. So this right here is the power board. As you can see, the power board is made up of simple resistors, capacitors, and resistors, just different sizes, different shapes. This right here is beyond A+. Okay. We're not really beyond, it's in the lower scope of A+. This is strictly electrical. Okay. To repair one of these boards, all you need to do is replace the correct capacitor. The way you would find out if a capacitor was bad was either A, visually you can see it's bad. For instance, these capacitors right here. This right here, instead of seeing it flat the way it is, what you would see is a little bubble coming up this way. And then you see where those lines are, it would actually be split. And then, there'd be like pus hanging out of it or some kind of chemical coming out of it a little bit, maybe dry. These resistors are a little harder to tell if they've gone out. The best way you can tell whether a capacitor or a resistor or something has gone out is through the bottom. You would just find the appropriate connector, get a multimeter, and plug it in on both ends, and then test it accordingly. Like I said, this is strictly electrician. Okay, it's electricity. There's nothing high-tech about it. It's strictly electricity. If you want to learn how to fix these, that's an electrician option. Okay. For the most part, if you can visually see which one's out, you can just unsolder that, get the exact same specs as written right on the sides, get the exact same capacitor and just put it back in, weld it, solder it back on, and you're good to go. Cool. Okay. But as far as A+, we don't really fix these. We just replace the whole board itself. Okay. Oh, okay. One of these boards would run you probably about $35 to $50 depending on the model of the LCD. You can find it on eBay or Amazon again. There's some places they'll probably fix it to you, so you probably even take this to a local TV repair shop and just ask them to replace the capacitor. The capacitor would be like 99 cents maybe, or even less than that. And usually the capacitors are the ones that go out.
Is that what you would charge the customer, or?
No, that's how much this little part would be. Let's say you're going to replace this whole board, just because it's cheaper, to just replace the whole board sometimes than to is going around finding somebody to replace that one capacitor, or you don't want to learn about electricity, so you don't want to try to replace that capacitor. If you do just replace the whole board, it'd be $35, and then you could charge the client either by hour or by job. It's up to you. But the board itself will probably run you about $35 to $50. There's some models that have both of them built right in. They're just one giant board. Okay. Those are not the best because you're obviously looking at a much more expensive board than just one of the boards. The issues with the power board I already explained is if the power is not being regulated to the LCD correctly. Before you ever open one of these LCDs, the first thing you want to do is unplug it, and once you have unplugged it, the simplest way to discharge energy inside the capacitor is to push and hold the power button for a few seconds. Okay. So unplug it from the wall and then push and hold the power button and let all the capacitors discharge. Because what it does, when you try to power it on, it takes all the energy inside the capacitors to turn on the LCD, therefore discharging it, therefore they have no more energy inside of them. Okay. All right. Now, the LCD, the inverter would be exactly the same, except for that issues with inverters are a bit more complex. for instance, let me explain first how the boards work with each other. Okay, there it is. Now the way it works is power goes into the power board, and then the power board powers both the LCD and the inverter board. Okay? If this was the TV, there'd be another board. They call it the main board. They call it the tuner board, but it's really just the tuner board. It has the TV stations on it, or coax, or so on and so forth. Okay? The inverter board takes the signal from the computer, okay, and then from the computer it inverts it to an optical signal that you can see. So it connects from the inverter board to the monitor, okay, and then from the monitor, this part right here is in charge of making an optical signal that you can see. So I just want you to think inverting from the digital signal to an optical signal that you can see. So if this goes out, one of the common things that you'll see is that you won't have a picture on your screen, like at all, anything, whatever, whatsoever. You turn on your monitor, you might have like a backlight, which is like the screen kind of goes grayish, like a dark black, yes, but there's actually nothing on the screen. Wow. Okay, that would be an inverter board issue. Now, if you ever see half the picture, like let's say maybe you turn on this monitor and half of it is all blurry and then the other half is good, that tells me that the inverter is good, because the inverter board would invert the host signal or nothing at all. Okay. Okay. If you can see some of it, like maybe you just see one little square right here and everything else is messed up, okay, that tells me that the inverter board is good because it's inverted the signal. The problem is that this monitor did not take the signal in correctly and disperse it to all the pixels. Okay? The way these LCDs work is they're made up of pixels. There's a bunch of little dots going across, and each pixel is then in charge of either turning red, blue, or green. Okay? So one turns red, one turns blue, one turns green, and so on. Or maybe this whole group turns red, and so on. And by them changing so on and so forth, they create a picture, an image. All right? So if you see at least just a little square, that means the inverter board is good. It's the screen itself that's bad. Okay. Okay? All right, so now let's take a look at the screens. Here I have a couple broken LCD screens, and these came out of laptops. Because it's pretty common, people will break their screens for their laptops. And I just kept this one so that I can kind of take it apart and show how they work. So here's the connection to this circuit board that's built into the LCD, right? What connects to here? From here it would go and connect to the inverter board. Okay? So from the inverter board, it will go to here, and then this will convert it into the optical signal going down into the monitor. Okay. Okay? And then what would this connect to?
That would connect to the
power board to turn on the LCD. All right. So what I've done here is I've grabbed a little knife and I just cut this aluminum tape or foil tape, cut that tape, and I did not cut across the top. Okay. From the top, I just pulled the glue off and lifted it up. Okay. Now all this LCDs will probably have some kind of screw or something going across the side and then snaps on like so. Okay, I've already removed the screws in a previous lecture. Okay. So I'm just gonna pop all this all the way off, all the way around. Okay. And then you will see that just the outside bezel just holds everything together. Okay. But now you will see that the screen itself is made up of really 4 pieces. One is going to be this right here that you see and feel and touch in the front. Is just sort of a glass or a plexi or a plastic that's just in the front to protect the screen itself. If this was a touch screen, this would actually be a digitizer where you can actually touch and make motion and so on. And then there'd be another connection to the computer. But this is not a touch screen, so this was just a regular screen. So the front is just kind of like a dark plexiglass, and that's it. Okay. Now, the next part is the screen itself. Okay, this is where the image happens. This is where the magic happens, and you see that's where it's split. And if you were to look at this really closely, you could probably see like a little grid going this way, and you could see like the individual pixels in here. And if you had a lupa or a magnifying glass, you'd be able to see it even better.
Okay.
But the way it works, it takes the signal from the inverter board, and then it sends it down here, and it tells it which pixels to turn on and which pixels to turn off. So if just one of these went out, then this whole line right here would be dead. You wouldn't have no picture here. And the way this works, in another lecture, I turned one of these on that worked, and you can actually see everything just the way I'm holding it right now. You can see my hand, and you can see the start button, and the whole image. You can see everything going on.
Oh, wow.
It would be really dark. You wouldn't be able to see it very clearly. You can see it the way it is, and it would just turn different colors as you went on. But you can see my hand at the same time as you can see the image, because this is the image being displayed right here. Now, the reason the image is so bright in LCD is because of this last part. The last part is made up of a few layers of film. And you can see we have this has to be more than one. Maybe this one. 2, and then 3, and then 4 layers of film.
Okay.
And then you have another plexi, a clear plexi, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
It's see-through. Okay. And this is called the backlight. The way this works is it gets power, and then it just has like a bunch of little flashlights going across the bottom, hitting it right on the edge, right here, right on the edge. And I don't know if you've ever hit light right on the edge, but the whole thing turns on like a giant flashlight.
Oh.
So now, this just turns on white light. That's it. White light turns on, and because it's not even and smooth, they put these layers of film to smoothen out that light and make it one solid dispersed amount of light going across, so it's easier to see. By the time you have all these layers of film, you've got a really soft light shining at you. Okay, it's no longer like a flashlight being flashed in front of your eyes.
Okay.
So now that you've got the flashlight or the backlight, you can then put the image in front of it, and then the image it looks the way it looks on a regular LCD. It looks bright and clear. Okay, so this piece right here is the actual image. Okay, this is the actual screen itself. This is where the magic happens.
Okay.
This is just like a big flashlight. Okay,
Okay.
it's called the backlight. Now, if you ever have a screen on a laptop or a regular desktop LCD, and you can see the image, but it looks really dark, it just simply means that your LEDs on your backlight went out. You have no more backlight. All you got to do is replace the backlight. That's it.
Okay.
If you ever have something like this, where you crack the screen, you turn on the computer, and you can see kind of the whiteness coming out. You see color, but it's all liquidy, and it's going across these cracks. That means your backlight's still good. It's just that this part is bad.
Okay.
You could technically, if you had a clean enough room where you wouldn't get all these little particles in there, is just remove this from one screen, the backlight from another, and then get your own working LCD screen. Okay, and then the front, that's just the finish. This right here is dark to kind of ease up the tone, the amount of light coming at you, so that it's not too hard on the eyes.
Okay.
And then it gives you the final touch, whether it's glossy or matte or so on and so forth. Okay, and then that's it. Then they just grab this piece right here to wrap it all together and embody all these different pieces into one. And that is an LCD screen. All right. Any questions with the LCD screen?
Yeah, I was always told there was like a liquid that ran.
Well, the liquid is in the actual screen itself, in this right here.
Oh.
That's why they call it LCD, liquid crystal display.
Okay.
Okay? And the liquid, what the liquid does, and actually right here through the cracks you can see the liquid. Let me open this back up. I'm breaking it even more. All right, so I doubt the break was this big before I started. So if you look at this cracks right here, you could kind of maybe see a little bit of the liquid on there. You see it, like right around there? Because the way this works is a signal comes in here, and then it sends kind of like a little pulse, and the liquid changes color inside of here.
Wow.
Each one of these little pixels has a liquid inside, and depending on the energy it sends to it, it changes it to different colors.
Oh.
Okay, so there's no actual like part where there's a pool of water.
Okay.
The liquid is actually within this part right here, is inside this part. So as soon as one little crack happens on this, the liquids start coming out from the pixels that it cracked from.
Okay.
So there's still liquids right here, and so on and so forth. But that's where the liquid is inside of here. Okay. And that's is part of what makes this whole screen work. Okay. So liquid crystal display. All right.
All of these different levels to it. That's all plexiglass.
Well, different types of plastics and plexiglass. Yeah. So now in laptops, this piece right here will get replaced as a whole. This is one piece.
Okay.
The power, there is no power board on laptops because it gets the power from the laptop, from within the laptop, from the battery or the power supply. The only other piece you'd have is the inverter board on the laptop, and a lot of people don't know that the inverter board's actually on the bottom right here. It's a real tiny piece going across this way. Some people don't know that that's the inverter board and it's separate from the screen. So when they sell you the screen, they'll give you the inverter board that's on there. So just make sure if you ever need just the screen, you can reuse your inverter board.
Okay.
You just got to get the screen itself. On laptops, this can be dangerous. Okay. Not dangerous as far as hurting yourself or health, but it could be dangerous on getting the right part because it has to be the exact same screen. If your laptop was made with an LED screen, then you need to make sure you get an LED screen. Okay. The best thing to do when replacing these on laptops is first take it apart. Once you have taken it apart, you will see a model number right on it, and then use that exact same model number to replace this screen. Because you have to make sure that the connections are going to be the appropriate ones for both the power and for the inverter. Okay. The last thing is you can replace your screen. Let's say you bought a laptop and the screen was glossy and you just don't like glossy screens. You can replace just the screen for a matte screen, and then you can even sell your glossy screen to somebody else, or just keep it in case you ever break your screen. They also go by resolutions. And that would go by price. For instance, this one, when we replaced it, I think it was $89 for this screen. Okay. And that was because they just wanted, a cheap screen. They didn't care about the high-end resolution, so it didn't go very, very high as far as resolution goes. The ones that were the exact ones that she had in her computer before we replaced it, they had very high resolutions, but that screen was like $200. But it supported really high-end resolution, and she didn't care for that, so we just replaced it with the lower resolution screen. Okay. So that you also got options when you're replacing these.
Okay.
All right. Any questions with screens or LCDs?
I think you just answered them all, because I was going to ask what the cost was to replace the screen if it was cost efficient.
Grab it. A lot of people don't know, but they just throw their computers away because their screen is broken.
Right.
It's actually one of the cheapest things to replace.
Wow. Wow.
All right. So let's talk about used screens now. If you buy brand new screens, everything's fine and dandy. If you ever buy used LCDs or used screens, they have ratings on them. First, you see that this one actually has a really small scratch going across it right there. Okay. This small scratch right here would rate this LCD probably as a or maybe even a B, depending on who's selling it. An A is a like new screen, that everything's pretty much perfect. It maybe has something small in there. Okay. This is actually because the size of the scratch is not deep, because you can barely feel it, but because of the length of it, because it's about an inch, I would probably make this a B. B means it's like new, it just has something visibly wrong with it, just one little thing. And there's always two things that can be wrong with it. Either A, a scratch, look like this. The best way to see a scratch is the way you see it. Turn the screen black. If it's on a screensaver, just turn the whole background black, or one solid black color. And then you can see scratches really easy because they show white on a black screen. The other thing is called pressure points. Pressure points are best seen reverse. Make the whole screen white, and then maybe you have like a little dark area right here where something was pushed up upon it, and that made a pressure point right there that can no longer be fixed. So pressure points can be seen better with the white screen, and scratches can be better seen with black screen. Okay? So the more blemishes or the more little tiny defects it has, the higher the rating on U screens is. So maybe a C, a C screen, a C, a C type, or a C style green, C style LCD, sorry, would have a lot more blemishes on it. Okay. So maybe a few scratches and a pressure point. A D would probably be kind of riddled with a bunch of little things, and just all over the place. An E would probably have something pretty major on it that probably makes it a lot harder to see. That would be more for like a warehouse. Warehouses really don't care how pretty it looks. They just need to be able to read a number, and so on. So there's still some uses for even screens with a bunch of pressure points and scratches, as long as it's not cracked. They can be used for warehouses where neatness and cleanness isn't really their high priority. They just need to be able to read a number, go pull it and hit enter, read the next number, pull it and hit enter, so on.
Oh, okay.
All right. So if they're brand new, then you have no problem. Okay. A lot of people will actually grab a A-class monitor and sell it and say it's new, even though it's not new.
Oh, wow.
Just because it's so clean and so neat and nice, it looks new. There's no scratches, no pressure points, it's just no blemishes. It looks really nice.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions there?
What's the major difference between LCD and LED monitors?
Forgot to put that back together.
Sorry.
Actually, LED monitors are LCD monitors.
Okay.
All LED means is that the light in the backlight is an LED light, which is much brighter. Okay. Now, don't confuse that with OLEDs. OLEDs, the screen itself is actually made of a different material that is bendable and flexible.
Okay.
So you can actually grab the monitor and do this to it and see the picture clearly.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So the screen could be circular like this, and you would see the picture circular like that. That's an OLED. Okay. But a regular LED LCD just means that the power in it is actually LEDs, actual LEDs in there that are turning on the monitor, which use less energy and are a lot brighter, so you can get better colors in it. Okay. Brighter whites, and then through all the panels you can get darker blacks. No, those are the wrong ones. It's these guys. So the thick one goes right here. Any other questions?
Have you done a lot of repairs in your experience with monitors, or do
Yeah,
companies
I mean,
mostly just?
Oh yeah, no, I do a lot of repairs. One of the most common is going to be repairing laptop LCDs because they're just broken so easily. You drop them, you push on them. I had a client who once brought one in because they were getting up and accidentally put their hands on it and used it to get up without thinking about it.
Oh no.
Or I don't know if they didn't see it, but it seemed like a quick brain fart that they probably had at the moment.
You're right. Wow. And is there a specific lifespan on these? Like if it just sat in the office?
LEDs are not like the CRTs.
Okay.
The CRTs, they did have several things wrong with them. If they just sat in the office with the same image, they would burn the image into the glass in front of them. So then that would be there all the time. Even if you turned on the monitor, it would still be there. LCDs have that plexi in the front, which is very, very resilient. It can, if you do ever get like an image slightly burnt into it, it'll probably go away in a little while. It won't be on there for life.
Oh.
So screensavers were created for the CRTs, just to save it from burning into that glass. I'm missing a screw. Oh, there it is. And LEDs they'll serve you longer. As long as the inverter board and the power board are good, you're good to go. Yeah. Now, the most monitors are rated by the number of hours that it's actually on, up and running. Most people would just leave their LCDs on all the time in a business. They'll never turn them off, which is not recommended. The best thing that you can do is set up a hibernation on the screen, so that if they go home for the day, it will just shut down the screen or put it into a deep hibernation so that there's no power being consumed. That way it's less hours ran on it. So laptops, the same thing. The more hours you run on the screen itself, that's the life of the screen. You know, but I mean, it's so many hours that usually you'll probably break the screen before you run out of the hours. Yeah. Or buy yourself another screen, another monitor, another LCD, much nicer.
Okay.
Okay, now to put this in, I'm just gonna slide that up. That's it.
Wow, that's cool. I thought it was so much more complex.
Yeah, most people do. There's just 3 parts, and in a TV, there's just an extra part. It's called the main board.
Okay.
And that will have the TV tuner on it. Any input videos will probably be on it or on the inverter board. More likely the inverter board, because it needs to invert the signal over for the optical.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And the reason I know which one connects each one is because they are labeled or marked with a Sharpie there. That way I remember which connector goes where.
Now, would the touchscreen have the same built-in features that we just saw here?
It would have everything exactly the same. A touchscreen is an LCD with a digitizer in the front.
Okay.
It's just another piece in the very front that allows you to touch certain areas of the screen, and it emulates a mouse. Touchscreens have actually been around for a very long time. They used to be sold separately from the monitor. It was just a piece of glass that had its own connection, either USB or through the COM port, and then it would you would just sit it in front of your LCD. So you would have your LCD like this, and then you would buy the digitizer, and the digitizer would probably be about that thick, and you would just sit it in front of your screen.
Okay.
And then it would be clear, so you can see the screen in the background, but you would just touch the digitizer.
Wow.
All they did is take that big, thick digitizer and make it built into the screen. That's all they did. They've actually been around for a while.
Wow.
All right. Any other questions?
I think that's it. Why do you have to use microfiber rags to wipe your screen down?
The reason you use microfiber rags. Oh no, did I just leave those screws underneath?
There's some right
They're right here.
Okay.
The reason you use microfiber screens is because these screens scratch up pretty easily in the front,
Okay.
and the microfiber will not damage the screen in the front. Now, if you notice, I'm kind of rough with my equipment. I've just had it for so long, and I have so many of them that I really aren't too worried about
Right.
the prettiness of them. Yeah, and this actually works. This is the one we used in the back down there. I just brought it an extra one.
I was thinking when you destroyed your monitor, you had to just buy a new one and like really fix it.
No, yeah, you can fix the monitors.
Wow.
Yep. Okay. And then this guy goes in there. Okay. And then this guy goes like that, and this is the easiest part. And that's it.
Makes you want to go home and start taking stuff apart.
And that's it. Back up and running.
Oh, that is neat.
All right. Any questions?
That would be
No. Oh, I forgot to put 4 little screws back in it.
That looks like it's a quick job to do.
It is. It really is. If a company is dedicated to repairing LCDs, they'll probably replace the boards themselves. I mean, the circuits themselves. For instance, if one little capacitor is out, it would behoove them very much to just have a person just swapping out capacitors all day long, because it's a very low-level job. You know, it's just basic electricity. Unfortunately, it's just not something that we go over in A+. But it's basic electricity and simple soldering. And if you do want to learn how to solder, just let me know. I'll bring the solder gun in and give you a couple little things to solder to put together.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Jay.
Okay. And that's it. Okay. So the last one I have here is a little tiny LED, tiny little netbook screen. Works the same way, except for that the connection on top is for both the power and for the inverter. It's just one single connection. You know, because smaller screens like this are for netbooks that are really meant to be really cheap. They'll try to, and small, super small and thin and light, they'll try to consolidate it all into one. Okay. So in here we see that we have the connection to the inverter board, right? I mean to the LED, to the backlights, right there, built right in. So that's the connection to the backlights. And then if I just take this apart, like so, you can see there's the connection right here. And I'm going to unplug the backlight, and there it is. See, there's the screen, and you see all the liquid in it.
Yeah.
That's been broken through the crack. But that's where all the magic would happen. And then this is just the backlight. You know, it's the backlight with all the layers of film. Usually you don't want to get any dust particles in the middle of these layers, because then it can be kind of annoying after a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just the backlight with all the layers of film. So if you ever had two of the exact same screens, that one had a backlight go out and the other one was cracked like this, well, this backlight is still good. You can still reuse this for another monitor. Okay. And then just get the appropriate screen that the backlight went out, put the two together, and you've got yourself a working LCD. Okay. Wow. On little netbooks like this, the front plexi is actually glued, and if you can touch it right there, you see that it's actually glued right onto the top of this, and that was just made to make it smaller and thinner. Okay. So that's why it's just one piece that goes on here. Okay. Lays on there like that, and then goes on there. If I can get this around there. Like that. Like that. And an LCD. Okay. All right. Any questions?
Would a tablet be designed the same way?
It'd be just much smaller. Even smaller then.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. That concludes LCDs.